Hello, my lovely Misfitians. My name is Carrie, and I am your watercolor misfit. Today, we are going to be exploring a quick and easy way to spice up your watercolor paintings without pretty much any effort. But before we do that, I have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. First off, I wanted to let y'all know that y'all voted, and for most of you, you probably already know this because I've told it on social media, on Instagram, as well as YouTube. This is the bunny that we are going to be drawing or learning to draw in the next upcoming video. We're going to do it right before Easter sometime. I have already started planning and working on that. So this bunny with the little butterfly on top is going to be our next drawing tutorial. So make sure to subscribe and follow so that you can basically be the first notified when that comes out, as well as being involved in future voting processes. Okay, with that covered, let's go ahead and jump into how to spice up your watercolor paintings without any effort. So a lot of times when we're painting with our watercolors, it's really easy to get kind of boxed into one color. For some reason, I am on this insect kick. I don't know right now, but let's talk about ladybugs and butterflies and grasshoppers to kind of give you an idea. So let's say you want to paint a grasshopper. And your idea for painting a grasshopper when you approach it is let's paint it with just green. So you use all these different types of greens, but it's still at the end of your painting looks very one-dimensional. Same thing is true with the ladybug. You choose red. You basically use all different types of reds and oranges and pinks, but it still kind of looks flat dimensional. It doesn't have that really cool, what I like to call tie-dye effect, where it kind of has this merging of different colors. So how do we create that without mixing every single color in our watercolor palette? And trust me, I have done that because I did not know how to do this earlier. So that was my first approach when I was trying to figure out how to actually go about doing this. And it takes a lot of time. And right now I don't have a lot of time. And probably a lot of you, if you've clicked on this video, also don't have a lot of time. So the very first thing that I recommend you do is pull out a scrap piece of watercolor paper and determine 3 to 4 colors that are going to be your core color set. Or basically, what 4 colors would you want your base to be for this particular illustration? So I'm kind of thinking of a ladybug. I really want to paint a ladybug right now. And I want to go a little bit more on the modern side than the traditional side. So red is typically the color you would think of for a ladybug. I want to mix it up a bit and add a little bit of opera rose in there as well as permanent rose. So that's more of the magenta side of things. And I know I want to use Windsor orange. That particular color, just from color mixing in the past, has worked really, really well for me. The thing that I'm not sure about is what yellow I would like to use. So the very first thing that I would do is basically mix a ton of different gradient bars, basically, or blocks at the top of my paper, exploring permanent rose with this Windsor orange, which I know I love that particular combo. And for this particular kind of exercise, I mixed in Indian yellow as well as cadmium orange light, cadmium yellow, Windsor yellow, cadmium lemon. And once I kind of got the jive that I was liking cadmium yellow, then I started mixing it up and playing around with opera rose until I basically decided this is the core color gradient that I want for my ladybug. All right, now that I have my core gradient colors figured out, the next thing that I want to play around with is contrasting colors. And this is what I really feel like watercolor is known for. To me, it kind of creates that tie-dye feel of colors mixing together and creating neutrals as well as toned down colors, and then these bright, beautiful, just vibrant colors. Watercolor is really, really good at doing that. It's just really hard sometimes to find the right contrasting colors without mixing every single color in your watercolor palette. So a way to fix that where you don't have to mix every single color in your color palette, because let's be honest, usually we don't have time to do that. It's a great resource. I have done it. It has helped me fully understand how my paints work together. But if you don't have time, what's a cheat way to do this? A cheat way to do this, or if you, let's say, don't want to mix your colors because it bores you, is purchasing this. You can purchase this from Amazon. It's just a very simple laminated chart that Stephen Quiller, I believe I'm saying his last name correctly, put together. And I am so thankful he did this. It makes it so much easier for us. And this is called the Quiller wheel. So this particular thing can be used for watercolor, oil, and acrylic. But as most of you know, we're going to be using watercolor. And this particular wheel, what's so special about this thing is that every single color on here is an actual name. So normally when you see a color wheel, they just kind of give you a generic name like this is magenta and this is red and this is orange and this is yellow over here and green. This particular wheel actually shows you, let's see if I can get it to zoom in, the actual names of paint colors. So this is blue, there's manganese blue, you've got your cobalt turquoise here, and this is a deep green, phthalo green, a permanent green light, lemon yellow. It basically lays out exactly where a lot of your colors would be located, as well as your neutrals in the center. So how is this helpful to us? Well, one way this is helpful to us is that when I have decided on my core colors, I want to make sure that I am choosing contrasting colors that actually work well. Let me see if I can stick that where you don't see the light as much. That work well with all of these. So for an example, let's do Windsor orange, which would be more in this particular area right here. The opposite of that is pretty close to manganese blue. Okay, so manganese blue would work really, really well with opera rose, but it doesn't work as well with permanent rose or cadmium yellow. It kind of makes a brown neutral color. So let's see if I can show you that. It's right here. So with this particular color combination, it makes a really nice purple neutral, whereas with this one, it makes more of a green neutral. And I would prefer more of a purple neutral for what's kind of in my brain. So how do we go about choosing contrasting colors based on basically this chart? So what I do is triangle gradients. Each point of the triangle basically has one color. So this up here is permanent rose, this is Windsor orange, and then I choose a contrasting color in this corner right here. So let's look at permanent rose. That is in this particular area. And we go across. That would be a deep green, which would get me more of a black. But since I want to tweak this a little bit and I'm working in warmer colors, I want to skew over a bit and go to the warmer side of green. So when I slowly push my way over here, the warmer side of green over here would be green gold. So I'm going to play around with mixing permanent rose, Windsor orange, and green gold together in my first triangle. And I really like this color combination. It's really great if you were doing roses. This particular color works well, kind of pulling up into those rose colors and almost gives a new growth feel. Now that I know that I like this particular color and it gives me a really nice dynamic difference, let's try Opera Rose with Windsor Orange and Green Gold. And as you can see right here, it's a very, very different feel compared to my permanent rose with Windsor Orange. So the only color that I have changed is Opera Rose and Permanent Rose. For this particular color combination, it created more of a yellowy feel, and personally, I really like that. For the idea that I'm going for with my ladybug, this particular color combination is probably the best for me. So when I'm mixing in my contrasting color, I want to make sure that contrasting color is very close to Opera Rose so that I am not getting this green kind of look, new growth look, which I do like, but I don't really want that in my ladybug. So I'm going to try and stay clear of the permanent rose when I'm mixing those together in my illustration. Okay, so now that I've kind of got one contrasting color figured out, let's take my other contrasting color. So the other color that I'm using in my core gradient is cadmium yellow. The opposite of cadmium yellow would be purple. And it says cadmium yellow right here. If you go directly across, this would be more of a Windsor violet, which I have. But once again, since I'm working more in my warmer tones, I'm going to kind of veer more towards the warmer side. So I'm going to pick a purple in this color range right here, which would be my mauve, and play around with that with my cadmium yellow and my permanent rose. And as you can see, it created a neutral with my yellow, but it kind of created a more rust purple when mixing with my permanent rose. So this is a good contrasting color when I'm thinking about neutrals, specifically mixing neutrals. If I need to do any blacks or any browns, this particular color range would actually be really good for maybe his head, the black of the ladybug's head. So instead of using black, remember we can always use contrasting colors to add more dynamic. All right, now the last color that we have is Windsor Orange. That's going to be closer to red because it's Windsor Orange red shade, which will be more in this particular area. Which if we go straight over, that would be manganese. So let's play around with manganese next, and specifically mixing it with our Windsor Orange as well as Permanent Rose as well as Opera Rose. So that's these two triangles right here. So for these two triangles, basically I put Windsor Orange on this particular side. So this particular triangle, I'm going to be working with 4 colors. I have a little bit of cadmium yellow, but not that much because I know my cadmium yellow is going to mix green with my manganese. So I don't really need to pay much attention to that, but I do want to know what it does if it does touch that cadmium yellow. And then up here is Permanent Rose. So when I mix manganese with these, you can see I kind of get a little bit of purple with my Permanent Rose. I get my brown with my Windsor Orange, and then I get this green color with my cadmium yellow. I would want to stay clear of that particular green color if I was mixing it in with my ladybug colors because I don't really want a green in there. I would like more of a neutral brown or a purple when we are going for those darker elements of our ladybug. The next triangle we have is Opera Rose, Windsor Orange, and cadmium yellow. And I mixed it with manganese. And you can see right now, very, very different feel. This is getting more reds and blacks even in here compared to cadmium yellow, which has more of a neutral brown. So if we look at these two and compare them, the better contrasting color combo would actually be this manganese right here with Opera Rose and not the Permanent Rose. So let's say, based on what I know right here, how would I make these decisions? And by the way, these two are kind of just throwouts. I just wanted to play around with cobalt turquoise, which is close to manganese, and personally, I didn't really like these. So this is the row that I would go with. If I am doing the shell of my ladybug, I think I might add actually some green gold in areas where I want highlights to be, because that's going to tone down some of my yellow and kind of give it a nice little rust color. So I really like this particular combination. And once again, it's with the Opera Rose. And I personally really like this one right here. Once again, with the Opera Rose. If I'm doing my dark black colors for my ladybug. So right now I've kind of already figured out that out of these core colors, the one that I might actually eliminate for right now is Permanent Rose. I might keep that in certain little areas to drop in, but the colors that I really, really like playing around with when I'm adding my contrasting colors are Opera Rose, Windsor Orange, and Cadmium Yellow. So now that we have done our contrasting colors, the next thing that we can play around with is dropping colors in. And this is kind of just a gut feeling thing. So for me, I wanted to try transparent orange from Core. It's kind of a rust red color. And play around with that just to kind of see what it would look like, and maybe substitute that instead of my Permanent Rose to get more of my reds in there, but drop it in. So basically I created my core gradient once again on my paper, and then with a paintbrush loaded down with my new transparent orange from Core, I just dropped it in and wanted to see what it would do. The next thing that I did is I took New Gamboge, that's very, very close to green gold, and I also dropped that one in, and that creates really nice, cool textures as well. And then finally, the last thing that I wanted to play around with, since I like the mauve right here, I wanted to try Windsor Violet and kind of see what that also looks like if I'm playing around with that with my core color set. So what am I trying to do in this particular area? And I actually did this with neutral tints so you can see it a lot better. When I'm dropping color in, I'm trying to first off see the color that I'm dropping in, what does it actually do to my gradient? Does it spindly out? So with my neutral tint, you can kind of see it's kind of creating these spindle effects where it's pushing the other elements of paint in basically like little tendrils. It almost looks like coral when it has all those little funky branches. Another thing I want to see is what color is what I like to call a bully color. So you can see with my neutral tint next to my cadmium yellow. My cadmium yellow, since it's opaque, has a lot more weight to it. So it actually pushed my neutral tint back and basically created a blurred line you can see right here when compared to the spindly effects that I'm getting in my Opera Rose as well as my Windsor Orange in this particular area. So that's something that I'm trying to look at because I want to know, do I want more of a soft ballooning aspect or do I want more of these spindly feeling things in my basically wet and wet looks right here. And finally, the last thing that I'm trying to figure out when I am doing a dropping color is, are two of the pigments that I am mixing together, are they causing granulation? So is it creating kind of weird bumps? And you can see a little bit of that right here. There's granulation right here. If you want that, that is a perfect color combo. So basically this is Windsor Violet with Opera Rose and Windsor Orange, and it's creating this really nice granulation feel because the pigments on the paper are mixing together and basically the pigment is settling into the paper, creating this unique texture. All right, so the next thing that I would do, and I ran out of time because I try and do this during my son's nap time, so I have a very short amount of time, is I would do glazing on top. So since I've kind of gone through this process of figuring out, I really like the opera rose, I really like the Windsor orange, I really like the cadmium yellow, I like the green gold, I like the manganese, I like this transparent orange that I got from Core, I like the new gamboge, I even like the Windsor violet. I would kind of play around with those particular colors next, but do my gradient bars, let them completely dry, and then add some of those contrasting colors or even the other colors on top in a glazing fashion to see what it looks like when I glaze on top of these particular colors. So that's a very quick process to figure out what colors work and which ones don't without a lot of, let's say, guesswork while you're painting. Basically, you're doing the guesswork in a chart, which you can keep, and I'm going to put mine in a notebook. I have a little notebook for these. So this is my little notebook. I just picked this up from Target. And basically I get the little sheets, and anytime I do a color mixing chart that I want to keep, I will slip it into this particular book, which I will be doing with this one soon, to keep on hand just to have for future reference so I don't have to do this again. But this is a really great way to find basically that core basic color, and then what contrasting colors look really nice with that if you want to add more dynamic to your painting, and not spend a lot of time mixing. So anyway, this particular thing took me, I would say, about 40 minutes to really work through and put together, about the time of my son's nap time. So if you just have one particular night, you can do this particular chart, and then the next day you have a really good understanding of how these colors work if you want to go about painting your illustration. Anyway, hopefully this helps you, and it kind of gives you an idea of how I approach color mixing, and specifically dropping in contrasting colors to really give kind of a spice to your watercolor illustrations. So yeah. Lots of love, y'all. I will see you next time, and happy painting. Bye.